the Texans and Bengals game. Probably one of my favorite games, if not my favorite game of the week. We saw CJ Stroud. We've been high on CJ Stroud this year. We were high on the Texans entering the season, another where we were right situation. We had them going 8-9 during the season, and that might actually end up being wrong because we might have been a little underwhelming for them. CJ Stroud had a masterclass game. He now has 15 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, which is the best touchdown to interception ratio in the NFL. He has a number of he'll probably break Andrew Luck's rookie record for passing yards. He looks like he's already entered into that top 5 conversation. At least for the first 9 games, he's been a top 5 quarterback stats wise, entering himself into the MVP conversation at this point. And he's getting it done with the likes of Tank Dell, who another rookie receiver who's been playing very well. Nico Collins wasn't in this game. You saw Noah Brown step up. Devin Singletary even had some runs in this game where we're like, oh, I guess Bills running backs can actually run the football. But their defense, we saw some big plays when it mattered. You saw 2 interceptions with Joe Burrow making some big plays. So credit to the Texans. They know how to play not only in a shootout, but also when it matters, getting that big stop when it matters. CJ Stroud threw an interception with about 2 minutes to go. They're able to get the ball back, punch it down to the end of the game. Kyle Fairbairn getting that field goal to win the game.
Yeah, and then we talked about earlier in the season how CJ Stroud is changing the culture for the Houston Texans and how you can tell with a quarterback the first year you should know whether or not this is going to be a guy that's going to change your franchise, change your trajectory and how you've been, get rid of the bad juju as Joe Burrow did with the Cincinnati Bengals when he walked into that door, and then Trevor Lawrence giving the Jacksonville Jaguars stability. However, CJ Stroud has been the guy where you watch him on the field and then he kind of reminds me of Aaron Rodgers just with the way he's such a gifted natural thrower of the football the same way Aaron Rodgers was, and it's his first year, 2nd overall pick in the draft, has some of these weird knocks against him with the scores and how they were scoring it. That was definitely some propaganda from some agents who were trying to get him to fall in the draft so another team could take him, because CJ Stroud now is going in there dominating. He has a massive win versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week where he leads the team down the field with 40 seconds left, and it was very Andrew Luck-esque, but without the interceptions. He's one of the most talented throwers of the football, and then just being able to walk into the league, dominate with someone like Nico Collins out this game, and then he has Noah Brown and Tank Dell, and Tank Dell was talking about how CJ Stroud is changing the whole mentality of that organization, changing the whole demeanor of that team, because he is the guy that's texting teammates up until midnight saying like, oh, I saw this clip of the defense, we need to do this here. He's studying the game, he's keeping his teammates accountable, and he's one of those quarterbacks like a Tom Brady that demands excellence of his teammates at will. Because if you've ever been on a team, if you've ever been in a brotherhood, and then the vibe is everyone is pushing each other, you work a little bit harder, then someone else is like, if he's working harder, then I need to work harder on this team. CJ Stroud's been able to galvanize the troop, not only on the field, but off the field as well, just with his preparation, his love for the game, and then his will to win and get better week in and week out. And then we saw them with some tough losses earlier in the season, and now they're starting to come around where CJ Stroud leads them down the field versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, throws an interception where it looks like the Bengals could have won this game, and they should have if Tyler Boyd could have caught a wide open touchdown from Joe Burrow. But then the Texans are able to capitalize on Tyler Boyd's drop, capitalize on that mistake, drive the ball down the field in a tough Cincinnati Bengals stadium environment at home where that defense has been on fire. The Bengals have been on fire where it seems like they're able to stop a legitimate team that's been going to Super Bowls, been going to conference championships. This is the only team besides Tom Brady that has been able to beat Patrick Mahomes. And then CJ Stroud goes in there on the road where the Bengals need to win most of their games the rest of the year in a tough AFC North. And it's like, nope, it's the Houston Texans time. It's CJ Stroud's time to step up. And he's going up there, putting up numbers with the best quarterbacks in the league, and he's been one of the better guys in the league. And what really frustrates me about this team is that Carolina Panthers game, because if they had won that game, you're the best team in your division right now, and you have a legitimate shot at the 1 seed. So with all of that being said, the Texans do still have a shot to win their division. The second time they play the Jaguars, they play them at home, and their strength of schedule, it's not like they have a ton of tough games coming up. I believe they still get to play the Titans. I don't know if they play them twice.
I think they do.
Yeah, they get the Titans twice, get to play the Jaguars at home, which you beat the first time in a blowout, and then you get to play the Indianapolis Colts again, and then you were the worst team in your division last year, so you get all of those lower tier teams. So team that's set up to make a push for the playoffs, who we thought could be a sleeper team to make the playoffs, but the AFC is loaded. I'm excited about the Houston Texans. Texans fans should be excited about the Houston Texans. The Texans whisperers should be excited about the Houston Texans.
I'm stoked because I remember when we were watching the draft, we went out and watched the draft at a bar local to us. And I remember there was a lot of whispers whether or not they took CJ Stroud or Will Anderson. And then they end up going after both of them, getting your guy on both sides of the ball who's going to help build that offense and defense. And, credit to them because we look back a couple of years ago. They hired David Culley. They fired David Culley. They hired Lovie Smith. They fired Lovie Smith. And a lot of criticism was in the front office for them when they did that, but they just didn't have their coach. And then they went after DeMeco Ryans, who was a fantastic defensive coordinator for the 49ers. He comes in. He makes that big play for them. He gets both of their guys that they wanted, who looked like they were going to be dogs out of the draft. Now you have Will Anderson, who's one of the best edge rushers in the game currently. CJ Stroud is one of the best quarterbacks. And if you're looking ahead, you see a team that they don't have their first round pick, which initially upon draft night, we're like, okay, well, that could end up hurting them. It won't. It won't at all, because at the end of the day, they have the Browns pick for the next fucking 30 years, it seems like. And they can go out there. If the Browns miss the playoffs, they'll still have a mid first round pick that they can use, get a wide receiver. And then maybe they go after someone like T. Higgins, who wants a contract. Maybe they go after George Pickens, who's unhappy, and you'll have some wide receiver depth. Tank Dell, I think, will be a nice piece for them, but maybe you move on from someone like Robert Woods. Maybe you go after and maybe sign one of the running backs in free agency, bolster that run game, bolster that offensive line. But this is a team that in the next 2-3 years could be seeing them in the AFC title game against a team like the Bengals, Jags, Chiefs, whoever it might be. And I think they're going to be a threat in this AFC for years to come.